Oh, Jesse, they can't quit Elon. They're going to miss him if they don't have him as a punching bag.
They should beg for him to stay because he's saving us a lot of money. Democrats don't care about that. When they did save us money, when Bill Clinton knocked off about 400,000 workers, we all said, "That a boy, Bill. Way to go." If Joe Biden had cut expenses, we would have said, "That a boy, Joey," because we're not going to fight just to fight like they do. We fight for what's right. Now they're accusing him of being a drug addict. There was drug addicts in the last White House, and there was cocaine all over the place. They didn't say anything about that when an actual drug addict was running the country behind the scenes. I haven't seen any evidence of drugs, but I am suspicious of the black guy. More on that later.
You're always suspicious about black guys.
Black guys, yes, Greg. The Democrats, when you ask them what their plan is to reduce spending and save us from debt crisis, they don't have a plan. Jessica the other day said, well, we have to raise taxes. Okay, well, that's funny because you can't raise taxes out of a $36 trillion hole. Barack Obama raised taxes and the debt went up. Joe Biden could have raised taxes, but he didn't. Why not? So can't we just join together? And I say this to Jessica, and I say this to all the Democrats. Why can't we be good partners? We're all Americans. Let's work together. Let's not just kick the can down the road like you guys do and then explode when anybody tries to fix the problem you created. We are going to die as a country. I don't want to die together. I want to live together in harmony with the Democratic Party, and we can just save this country from financial ruin. We can do this. I know we can.
Jesse, maybe you could buy a Coke for Jessica. For those of us
Buy
who are
Coke
old,
for Jessica?
old
Not
enough
cocaine, the Coca-Cola.
We're old enough to remember the commercial.
It was a Pepsi.
I feel, no, it was Coke.
That
It was, I
saved-
feel like you're about to burst into, I'd like to buy the world a drink.
It was a
Coke.
Pepsi.
Can you work together?
Oh, that's specific. I can't. You're trying to Coke, Jenna.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Can you work together with Jesse?
100%. But Jesse's got to give up his tax cut. And
Then
he won't.
you're not going to work with Jesse.
No, he's rich and he needs that cut.
Oh.
Not a tax cut.
You're
We're
getting
just
an enormous
keeping
tax
the
cut.
tax rates the same.
That's literally untrue.
No, that's exactly what they're doing.
No, it's not. It's just not true.
They
It's
are.
not true.
But if they don't pass this legislation, the tax cuts will go away. So there'll be a tax raise.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Sharon
All right, the
agrees
funny
with
logic.
me. That means you're
that's not how it
obviously
works.
wrong.
That's his thing. If whoever sits in that seat, if you like half agree with him, then he says that he's right. Give up your tax cut and we'll talk about some cost savings. We'll go, I mean, Pete Hegseth promised us an audit of the Pentagon.
It's never passed.
It's never
By
passed,
the way,
and
the
they're getting a
Pentagon's never
bigger
passed.
budget. Well, let's talk about cuts to national defense. What do you think?
I'd love
All
to
right,
cut.
anyway.
Is there waste
Elon
within the
has-
Pentagon?
What?
Is there waste within the Pentagon?
Yeah, I'm sure there's waste everywhere. But at the moment where you are supposed to be talking about waste, you don't need this massive transfer of wealth to the wealthy. And the 2017 Trump tax cuts actually did have more for the lower classes than this package does. People earning over $50,000, their incomes are going to go down. People earning over, $4 million for sure, and I think even over $2.5 million are going to get a lot more money because of their cut, because of the tax cut.
Jessica,
I need to
it's
say
just
something to
keeping
Elon
the
Musk,
rates
though.
the same.
If that was a Democratic DOGE master that showed up with a shiner and there was a report that he did so much ketamine that he couldn't pee straight, you would be leading your show with it, 100%.
Can I bring in Greg here? Because he's filthy rich. So I want to know what he thinks.
Yeah, what do you think of your tax cut?
I'm filthy rich.
Filthy
with
and rich,
love.
I'm told.
Well, no, again, Jessica proves Jesse's point that they say that they are for the idea, but not the process. It is always that off-ramp to actually doing something that they will find, whether it is crime, immigration, or the economy. I definitely want to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, except, but, I want safer streets. But what about no cash bail? We want an immigration process just like you, except we don't like the way you're doing it. And then, we realize they don't have a replacement. The idea of talking about these tax cuts is not even close to being a solution. The solution is cutting spending. We're spending ourselves off a cliff. And you're saying we need to raise taxes. Why? Because you can't cut spending. You want to raise taxes because you will never, ever cut spending. We just want to go back to 5 years ago. That's all we want. Can't we just have a budget from 5 years ago? That's not too bad, pre-COVID. Why can't we do that? You guys. All right. I want to go back to the front part of this segment where these Democrats were pushing the bad things that happened because of DOGE, that there were crimes committed. Okay, let's compare their predictions to the other side's predictions. We sat here and predicted the border crisis. They didn't. They mocked us. We predicted the trans issue. We knew this was going to be a big deal. They didn't. They called us transphobic. We knew that there was going to be a Ferguson effect after George Floyd. They said, no, crime was getting better. They were wrong. Joe Biden's unwellness, Kamala's incompetence. We were the ones that when we made predictions, because of our filter, were correct. Compare that to the other side. Nothing that they predict, which is always existential, apocryphal, delusional, never happens, right? What did they say? Threat to democracy. The planet's going to end. The laptop is fake. Russians are behind this. None of that panned out. And now what they're saying about DOGE, they're saying, oh, my God, people are going to starve. So they were actually taking the debt. No, oh my God. Let me finish
this
for once.
This overweight.
You have my point being is you've lost the right for people to believe your hypothetical fantasies because they're never right. And you're willing to take the debt crisis and crush it under another fantasy. We don't believe you. And guess what? We don't have reason to believe you. And you brought up the Elon Musk drug thing. Why should we believe that when it comes out now? Do you think, using your what if this happened or what if he came out in support of Biden? We never would have heard about the ketamine, but he's pro-Trump, and now you're talking about the ketamine. He's having an impact as a public servant on America. Now you bring up the ketamine. You know what's funny? This guy is doing nothing but service. He's getting nothing out of this. That used to be a Democrat. That used to be a public servant. And now a guy who creates Neuralink, creates an internet process for the poor, electric cars, robots, rockets that save astronauts. He's a public servant who's also the richest man. And you guys don't like him. He's exactly what a Democrat used to be, a public servant. But now you only serve yourselves. You're like, what can I get out of this? And if we use identity politics, we can get everybody to declare what they want from somebody else. It becomes an attack over a finite pie when he just wants to expand it. There, I've said enough. I think I can go home early.
Fine by me. There, Katie, would you like to wrap it up?
I would love to. So, going off of Greg's point, Democrats' entire survival and existence depends on a bloated government. Whether it's taxpayer dollars going to NGOs for their pet projects, taxpayer money going to these big universities where they can indoctrinate all these kids to then go out into the world and spew liberal ideology and to talk about how we need even more government spending. The list goes on and on. The handouts that they want through the government that the federal government has no business engaging in. Democrats are perfectly happy with having rampant corruption, government waste that's going to tank the country into oblivion because of all the debt that we have, so long as it preserves their political power and they're able to continue the Washington grift that continues on and on. Trump brought Elon in, which is another example of how he does things very differently, someone from the private sector to say, people have been saying for 30, 40 years that this needs to be done. You hear it today. I think that we should cut spending, but I just don't think it should be done this way. Well, which way? Should we have another commission to write a report among a report, another report to say that we need to cut this kind of spending, not to mention going in and finding it where we didn't even know it existed? And now it's Congress's job to do what they were elected to do, to go in and to stop the abuse of the American taxpayer, to codify these cuts, which 70% of Americans actually agree with, and move on. Because the country cannot survive, in Elon's words, while we're ruled by a bureaucracy and not governed by democracy or in our republic. That's just the bottom line. So that's why they're so upset, because they're coming after the way that they survive, and Democrats can't survive without a big government.
Well, both sides have argued for decades that they did want to make these cuts, so maybe this sparks a conversation about how we actually get there.
I'm tired of sparking conversation.
I am going to stay optimistic to counteract
Stop
Greg.
it.
Yes, to counteract Greg.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.